Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the Inventor Smart Community. This is our podcast that we interview independent inventors, just to kind of get the behind the scenes stories, what motivated them, how they came up with their product. And I'm so happy to introduce Deanna. You are on episode 16, and you are a member of the National Inventor Club and, of course, the Inventor Smart Community. We'll get to a lot more of that in a little bit. Deanna, where are you from right now?
I'm currently living in San Diego, California.
You're in California.
Yeah.
Awesome. How's the weather? I'm in the Midwest, so I'm in St. Louis. And we're just now reaching 50 something degrees. So we're celebrating spring over here. How about in California? What's it like?
Today, the temperature is going to get close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, man. We're loving that. We're loving it. So have you always lived in California? Are you born and raised a native?
No. I'm originally from East Tennessee.
Okay.
Grew up about probably an hour from Knoxville.
Okay.
Lived there until college. And then after college, I moved away and haven't been back to live, but I go back frequently to visit family.
Okay, so Tennessee, California, I think it's leading into how you came up with your really brilliant idea. I love it so much. I think it's so smart. So I'm going to go ahead and let you just tell us all about it, how you came up with the idea, what it is, and where we're at with it.
Yeah, well, like probably many people who grew up in the 80s and 90s, I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have computer, internet. TV, there wasn't really that many channels either. So a lot of the ways that I occupied myself as a kid was just to get outdoors and go play and explore. So that's really created this love of nature and also just a desire to, better my health through time spent outdoors. And that's stayed with me even throughout growing up, going to different cities, living in more urban environments, just always that desire to get outside, whether it's actually like in the mountains or, right here in the city next to maybe a lake or a waterfront walkway. I just love to get outdoors. And that really kind of led to my inspiration for a new product.
So you're making some really good points. I'm an 80s kid too, right? Good points on the television, the internet, Facebook, all these apps. There was nothing like that. So we were forced to go outside and hang out and ride our bikes and discover new things. So, I love this energy behind what you're saying. It's so important for our health reasons, our activities, discovering new things, parts of the planet and the earth, and it's great for kids and adults as well. So, all right, keep going.
Yeah. Well, even though smartphones and everything came out, the pandemic really put a lot of things in perspectives for a lot of people, including myself. Here in San Diego, in those early stages, even playgrounds were closed. It was very unclear where you could go, what you could do. But the thing I did know is that my daughter and I, she was 3 at the time, we could go and walk around neighborhoods, just walk on sidewalks and explore the nature that exists in, urban canopies. So that's what we started doing while the playgrounds and other things were shut down, is just explore different neighborhoods in San Diego, walk around. And that really changed my perspective as well on the amount of nature that is hiding in plain sight, in cities, even in high density areas. And as I told more people about the little treasure troves I found hiding around San Diego, more people said, man, you should share it with, other people, whether it's like a blog or, start an Instagram account. But because of the pandemic, I had actually gotten off social media and was spending less time just because of the perceptions that were floating around during that time, a lot of judgmental opinions. And I just wanted to be disconnected from that. So I started thinking of how could I create a physical product that shares outdoor adventures with other people. And that's how I came up with the first product, which was the GoDeck San Diego. Nice. It's a collection of informational cards. They're about the size of a postcard. That on one side gives you a full-size color photo, and on the other showcases what's unique about the spot. How do you get active there? What are the trails paved? Are they dirt trails? Is there stairs, incline, and other things you can see while you're there? So I put this collection together and started selling it in late 2023, and that was my first ever product.
Good for you. I mean, it's genius. So now you can replicate that into other cities, obviously. I'm assuming that's the plan.
Yeah, yes. So let me just move San Diego here. And,
Okay.
I mentioned I'm from Knoxville.
Okay.
So once I sold enough of the San Diego deck, I said, okay, I think it's something people would like. So I came out with a Knoxville City deck. That's been selling well. So I said, well, let's keep going. Like,
Yes.
why stop now? And I've done North County, San Diego. This is the sample. So you're getting to see it firsthand. Hopefully the bulk, production will be here in May.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Congratulations. So how many are in the deck? Like a typical deck card? Is it 52 in a deck?
Yeah, I did 52 because the idea is you could have a new adventure every week of the year.
Once a week. Right.
Yeah. So for me, I personally have a goal to get outdoors multiple times a week and to be active. But for people who are new to the outdoors or just new to maybe physical activity, maybe once a week is a good place to start. And it makes it more exciting when you can say, I'll go to a new place. I'll see a new place. It makes it maybe more attainable and gives you a little bit of a goal. So that's why I did 52.
That's outstanding. So how are they selling? You're selling them on the GoDeck.com is your website.
Yep.
And you started selling in 2023.
Yes.
So here we are in 25, just barely getting started. So what have your sales been like? I mean, do you see this in demand? Are other people asking you, hey, will you do our city? Or are you making contracts or deals with, visitor centers or anything like that you could expand on this great idea?
Yeah, well, it's primarily direct to consumer on the website. I
Sure.
do have some retail stores. That's been one of the challenges of being a product-based entrepreneur is, once you bring a product to life and you learn, okay, how do I sell online? Then you say, okay, what is wholesale? How do I do wholesale? How do I get into stores? Usually it takes one store in a city. And then when you can go to the second store and say, oh, well, this store's selling my product. And they say, oh, well, if they are, okay, I can. But it's, it's that first one. That's the challenge.
It is, man. And it's that, we do a lot of these interviews that, we have a huge community, at Inventor Smart. And, the number one theme is, well, it's like the dog catching the car. Well, we caught the car. Now what do we do with it? And it is distribution and distribution channels. And, sometimes people think, just put it in Walmart. And it's never that simplified. As we know, there's a lot of boots on the ground, really walking into stores. How many units will they take? Do they have the real estate space on the store? Are you just focusing on mom and pops? How do you get into the bigger retail change? So you're definitely not alone in that space. And it's certainly a challenge for every inventor. But it's also addicting when you've reached a cool product and you've got some sales and you're getting, I'm assuming, some really positive feedback from your customers that are experiencing some of the activities or the places in the deck.
Yeah. I've had, that's partly what helps motivate me to keep going because, as a product business, there's a lot of upfront costs. Yes. Compared to service businesses where you go and you get a client and then you start making money. The product is so much upfront expenditures. But when you do hear from people who say, I used your deck and we loved it, or you hear from a store that says, hey, we sold out, we want to buy more, it gives you that motivation to say, okay, it's a little scary how much I'm putting into this right now, but I do see, success coming my way. It's also great to be a part of a community like Inventor Smart, hearing from others who say, yeah, it was really, tough at this point, or I struggled here, but, I got past it. It's great to have that community of like-minded people who, equally have passion in something and you're seeing them do it. So you're like, okay, I want to keep doing it, even though it's tough. And I feel like every day I encounter something that I thought, I had no idea this would be something I'd encounter and I don't know what to do, but you figure it out in the end.
You figure it out in the end. And, and sometimes, And again, another theme in our podcast is how long it takes. We never want to assume that you can go from concept to market in a year. I mean, you just can't do it. There's cost involved. There's so many decisions that you have to make, and you have to pivot on certain decisions. And like you just said, things are coming at you that you didn't even know. I remember when I first started my first product, I didn't put that much emphasis on packaging and shipping. Well, packaging kind of came with the unit, but the shipping costs and how I was going to ship and how I was going to charge. And that was a really big hurdle that we kind of had to figure out almost late in the game. It's like finding 10,000 ways that don't work. So especially as a young entrepreneur and independent inventor, there's a lot of this stuff that we have to figure out on our own. But going back to the community, it is nice to go in there and you kind of see everybody at different stages. Many are similar at the stage that you're at, producing, marketing, and we're still learning, a lot from one another. I love this community for that fact that I don't feel so isolated or so alone or even crazy with my ideas that I think might work or might not work. I know that you kind of alluded to part of your challenge is also that internal dialogue that we say to ourselves, which I think is really important as well. We're human, we're automatically going to go to, I can't do this. I'm not good enough, or nobody's going to buy this. I can't afford this. All that negative self-talk that, and I know everybody can do that no matter what industry or business that you're in. But sometimes too, as an independent inventor, you don't have a big business backing you behind you. A lot of the decisions that you are making are all in your head, except for, like we just discussed with the community. But I want you to touch on that, because when I read your response, I'm like, this is really strong. This is really very common area for a lot of us. And you seem like you've really overcome that part of it, at least for the moment. I know it kind of ebbs and flows, right, for all of us. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you kind of overcome some of that. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, I get that question a lot, is what's the hardest thing of bringing this all to life? And honestly, it was just all the stuff in my own head. We, even not with businesses, but just when people look in the mirror, we're the ones telling ourselves so many negative things. And, other people look and say, oh, you're beautiful and stuff. And you say, oh, I'm ugly. But when it comes to, creating a product, there's so many, you think, will people think differently of me because I'm trying to bring something to life? Am I wasting? Should I have put the money into a savings account of some sort instead of putting it towards the business? And and also just when you make mistakes, because I've made them and I've maybe spent money on something that didn't give a return on investment, you say, oh, that was, why did I not, why didn't I see that coming? And so the hardest thing of a business, I think, is actually the dialogue in your head, because, if you don't have the confidence in yourself, how can you, promote your product? Can you keep bringing things to life? So for me, what's helped me the most is that all these products are things that I've shared with my family, that I use with my family. In addition to the City Deck, I have games products that I use with my daughter when we're traveling. And so I tell myself, even if nobody else wants it or buys it, I have created something that I've shared with my own family. It's brought us joy. It's brought us value. This journey that I'm on, my daughter's got to watch it because she was 5 or 6 when I first started selling. She's 8. So she's been in here helping me package, shipments, and also watching me try to do videos on social media and learn all that. So it's been even if it all fails, I tell myself what a great experience I've had in my life and that I've been able to share with my own family. And
you know what, girl, I'm getting I always get emotional on these interviews. So I'm feeling like just little whelps in my eyes because I get this so much. There's a saying too, let's fail fast, right? Before we make these major mistakes or pitfalls that we can't kind of pull ourselves out of, especially when we're coming up with new ideas. That's just not going to work. Just accept it and move on. So I think as inventors too, you've produced a product, you've inspired yourself, your family, your friends, people around you. You definitely have some success here. You have a product on the market. right? So there's no failure in there whatsoever. Even like you said, even if you sell 10 more units, you've done something here. I invented a beach table. It wasn't rocket science, but it was really cool. And no one else had done it at the time, right? And a lot of my friends have this unit, my mom, my dad. And, so I look at it now and I'm like, no, I didn't sell a million of them, but it's a really personal accomplishment. To start with a scratch cocktail napkin is when I first wrote it, this little table design. And then to see a product produced, in a couple of years' time was just, I never thought that would happen. So even for you, you had this great idea. You have a great love for the outdoors, your city. And I just think it's brilliant. I really do. It does take us back to the 80s and the 90s. We're like, let's get out on the planet. Let's discover. Let's take walks, hikes, all of it. I did read in your little thing too, and I thought this was just adorable, that when you met your husband, he had said, hiking is overrated. Prove me wrong. And then what happened?
Yeah. So met him when pandemic restrictions were lifting, and I was actually looking for a hiking partner because prior to the pandemic, cycling was my, sport of choice.
Okay.
But there was no group rides. There was no racing anymore. And I thought, well, I would love to do more hiking. So I, like many people, I got on a dating app and started looking for somebody. And I saw him and I thought, oh, what an interesting guy. But you scroll down the profile and I saw hiking is overrated. But he did say prove him wrong. So I said, okay, I'll give him a shot. And, he has been with me for every single one of these hikes and then some. And over 100 hikes we've done together.
Listen, I'm a girl, so I'm getting such a big kick out of that part of your story. I just think it's so fun and exciting. And, it's just hilarious that he's like, well, prove me wrong. Oh, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. We're going to do 100 hikes. And I have this deck that is going to show you where we're going to do all these hikes. So great for relationships, great for family, date nights, date afternoons. Even if you pulled once a month out of your deck, or, you just want to go outside of the box, I think it's a great reference to give people. And, Deanna, I really hope that you have a replica of these in every city. Like St. Louis, Missouri would love something like this. We should talk about how do you get it here, because St. Louis has so many pockets of such great culture. It's not just like one district. There's just several. So my nose is running. We have so many little districts and pockets, and I'm sure that's what's discovered in your findings as well, that even local people can explore that they don't remember or they forgot about that place. I think every community has that element, especially when we're talking about Tennessee or California or almost anywhere, really. So what's the future plans? Where are we at today? What are we doing next?
Yeah, I hear that from folks is we tend to get in our own little bubbles. We tend to explore areas we're comfortable with, maybe right around our home or maybe where we work. So a product like the GoDeck helps people say, oh, I've never been there. Let's go explore it. Or when you have people like in a place like San Diego, I've always got people coming to visit me and they say, well, what do you have planned for me? And I said, well, I don't know. I've already made, decision overload. So I hand them the deck and let them choose. But yeah, like you said, I want to do more cities. I do also really enjoy creating the products with my daughter. So, this is the games to play on the go, which is a portable collection of games. This is our go-to when we're commuting on the road or even when we're hiking and she's getting a little tired. I said, well, let's play a game to help us get to the next bench. We also created, my daughter and I, a standard deck of playing cards, but on each card is a different outdoor activity. So continuing with the City Deck series, doing more cities and understanding how do I start working, instead of me doing it all of it myself, how do I start working with others to expand this in a more rapid process? But also, how do I keep creating products like this with my daughter? Because, gosh, family memories isn't that one of the best things you can have in life. So just understanding how to do it all, once I can figure that out, I'll be set.
Man, I love this so much. I love this for you. I mean, what great energy that you're putting into all this. And I just had a pop. I go, what a great wedding gift to give somebody, give a couple as a wedding gift, something like that, where they can explore and travel and make memories together. Because like you said, coming out of COVID, it certainly changed a lot of family dynamics, relationship dynamics, relocation, obviously a lot of tragedy where people lost their lives and their homes. So this is just a beautiful product, I think, to kind of bring us back to do things together as families and friends. I mean, I would if I lived in one of those cities, I would buy one just to go with my friends. Go, all right, guys, this is what we're doing this weekend. I just think the marketing on this is just endless. So happy that you're part of episode 16 of the Inventor Smart Community podcast. Guys, if you're out there and you're an inventor and, you're getting muscled and bustled with all the noise, come join our community. It's free membership. Of course, there's also a paid membership, $10 a month, $99 for the year. But you have access to so many resources, so many other members in our community, like we talked about earlier, that are at every different stage of development. You can come on board, you can talk with me, you can meet Deanna, just there's all of us are here. And I love this, that we're all so different and we're learning from one another. And Brian is brilliant for putting this community together. This is the first app of an Inventor community. You can find us on the Apple Store, anywhere you download all of your apps. And of course, this podcast is available everywhere you can stream your podcast. So best of luck to you, and you're going to stay with us in the community. You're going to keep going and stay active in the app. Please add your link there into the app, and we may have some members that are in your area that would love this and pop up those sales and everything else. Any closing remarks or anything else that you would like to tell us? What you're other than what you're doing next, or?
Oh, well, every day is new possibilities, learning, what's next for the business and figuring it out. And so I just encourage people to find a community like Inventor Smart, because I remember when I was just starting with the idea, friends and family were like, oh, it's good for you, but, don't quit your day job and, maybe not put too much money into this, idea. So when you're part of a community like this, you're surrounded by people who are encouraging and supportive, who understand what it feels like to have an idea and want to see it through. Because I think nothing for anybody who has a inventor mindset or an entrepreneurial mindset, nothing would be worse than to, reach the end of your days and have regret that you didn't try.
Yeah, so, that is really great advice. And, like you said, yeah, you go to your families and your friends and your mom being like, well, you've saved all that for a rainy day. And then you're internally, you're inside like, I feel really passionate about this and I believe in this. So you're right. It is nice to be around the other community where everybody's going to keep you in balance. We're not saying, hey, second mortgage your house just to get this done. Right. But we are encouraging, if you believe in this product and you've come this far, don't stop now. And of course, we have to agree that inventing takes a long time, right? Sometimes it may seem like overnight success if you're on Shark Tank and you get a big deal and next thing you know, you're in every retailer. But you could also ask those people, and boy, howdy, it didn't go that fast for them, behind the scenes. So I think as inventors and as moms, you have to split your time, and you work and you have to do everything else involved. But listen, lady, I love your product. I think it's, I think the time is right for a product like this. And I envision that you're going to have multiple cities and multiple versions of what you're already working on for continued success. I'm so proud of you. I'm really happy about this.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me and let me tell my story.
Wonderful. Well, we'll see you again in the National Inventor Club and, of course, with the Inventor Smart Community. And to everyone out there, please, if you want to join us, you want more information, you can go to nationalinventorclub.com. On the website, you can find us at Inventor Smart Community and all your downloadable apps and anything through Google. Here we are. We're looking forward to it. Thanks again, Deanna, and you have an absolutely fabulous day.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.